What's up, pod people, and welcome to the Wheel of Time Pod-Thru. I'm Teresa.
And I'm Tim.
And together, we're going to walk through Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time book series. How you doing, Tim?
Doing good. It's kind of a rainy day today, but I like that kind of thing.
Yeah. I'm also doing well. I've got my Tullamore Dew. I've got some coffee. I am ready to podcast.
Nice.
So before we get started, we just want to remind you that this is a reread. We assume that you've read the entire series, so there will be spoilers. You have been warned. Dun, dun, dun. All right, Tim, what are going to be... blah, blah. Let's try that again. What are we going to be doing in today's episode?
Today we'll be discussing chapters 32 and 33 of The Great Hunt, where big plans and crazy schemes are afoot at Barthanes' party. Chapter 32 is called Dangerous Words, and the icon is Tom's harp.
Here's a quick summary to act as a reminder for those of you who are not reading along with us. Perrin and half of the Shannarian soldiers are left behind at the inn, while everyone else goes to Barthanes Manor. Matt is posing as Rand's manservant, and he's kind of bitter about it. The two outland lords with an Aes Sedai and an Ogier make an impressive entrance, and the manor is buzzing with news of their arrival. Matt and Huron head to the servants' area, and Rand and the others enter a ballroom full of guests as well as several entertainers. Lord Barthanes greets them, welcoming them to the party. Varen had instructed them not to stick together, so she and Ingtar go off to mingle. Loyal tells Rand that he can sense a waygate nearby, and the manor must have been built over what was once an Ogier grove. He also wanders off, and Rand meanders through the party alone, trying to avoid conversation. Person after my own heart. In each new room, he finds more entertainers and more curious nobles. Before Rand knows it, Barthanes is walking beside him. Following Varen's advice, he slips into Cat Crosses the Courtyard, the most arrogant stance he knows. It has an effect on Barthanes, who accuses Rand of being a spy for Geldrian. Rand says that he doesn't know the king, and they have a back-and-forth conversation that confuses Rand more than ever and convinces Barthanes that Rand is a master of the game of houses. Barthanes takes his leave of Rand, who keeps walking. The new room Rand enters has a gleeman entertaining, and that gleeman is none other than Tom Merrilin. Wanting to respect Tom's wishes to have a clean break, Rand turns to go, but is cornered by first one, then two, then three women, all telling Rand that he should visit them and BT Tubbs, their husbands, are away a lot. Rand is trapped by their huge skirts, and they have him up against a wall. He seizes the opportunity when he sees Tom take a bow and squeezes past their ginormous ball gowns, saying that there is someone he must talk to. Rand makes it to Tom, explaining that he needed to get away from those women. Tom wants to know what he's doing playing at being a lord and in the company of Aes Sedai once again. Rand explains that Varen just showed up and that Dark Friend stole the horn and brought it to Barthanes. Tom tells Rand again that he doesn't want to get involved, though he is less convincing this time. Huron interrupts them, telling Rand that his manservant had a fall and he needs to come to the kitchens right away. Before he goes, Tom warns Rand that it was the White Tower that created the game of houses in the first place, and he needs to get away from Aes Sedai before it's too late.
The start of this chapter kind of feels like a heist movie. Like each character is explained as if we're doing a freeze frame picture of that person with text on the screen. Mm-hmm. Like that show Burn Notice used to do.
Yeah, like Matt is here to sense the dagger.
Yeah.
And Varen is here because she's Aes Sedai. Right. Yeah.
yeah. Or maybe I've just watched one too many spy shows and movies for my own good. I don't know.
That's possible.
But I like a good heist, and this one is off to a good start.
Yeah. So it kind of stinks that Matt has to be there instead of Perrin. Like, Matt is being a real jerk about it, and I think Perrin would have handled pretending to be Rand's manservant way better. And Matt still hasn't learned to guard his tongue, so Ingtar has to call him out before he blows their cover.
True. But unfortunately, like, Perrin's yellow eyes are a problem, so I can see why Matt's there.
True. And, I mean, Matt's there because he can sense a dagger, and that is, like, the reason. You know, they do need, well, theoretically, they needed Matt. He turns out not to have really been needed, but they didn't know that going in.
Right.
But he's just such a butthead about it, you know? It's like, Matt, calm down. Everyone knows that you're not really Rand's servant. Just pretend for one freaking night. Like, just calm down, man.
Yeah, I was really glad that Ingtar calls him out for it because someone has to.
Right?
You know? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't remember if this has been explained yet, but when Barthanes approaches, we get this description of his clothes. Like, the reason Jordan calls attention to the multi-stripes that is that's how Corinthian nobility display their rank in society. The more stripes, the higher the rank. So the audacity of a man to have stripes from his neck to the hem of his cloak tells you a lot about who he is, or at least who he thinks he is.
Yeah, it's a bit much.
Yeah, just a little. So we find out that Loyal can sense a waygate nearby, and that means a grove was planted here to remind the Ogier of the steading when they built the original city.
Yeah.
I can only imagine how pissed off Loyal is that Barthanes leveled an Ogier grove in order to make room for his manor.
Yeah.
You don't even have to be a tree hugger to be angry about this at all.
Yeah, definitely. So I love the conversation between Rand and Barthanes. He's so out of his depth, but comes off smelling like roses because of the convoluted way Corinthian think. I'm just going to read it because I really like it. Many friends, Barthanes agreed. You can tell Galdrian how many and who. Some of the names might surprise him. I have never met the king, Lord Barthanes, and I don't expect I ever will. Of course, you just happened to be at that fly-speck village. You were not checking on the progress of retrieving that statue. A great undertaking, that. Yes. He had begun thinking of Varen again, wishing she had given him some advice on how to talk with a man who assumed he was lying. He added without thinking, it's dangerous to meddle with things from the Age of Legends if you don't know what you're doing. Barthanes peered into his wine, musing as if Rand had just said something profound. Are you saying you do not support Galdrian in this? He asked finally. I told you, I've never met the king. Yes, of course. I did not know Andermen play the great game so well. We do not see many here in Carrion. Rand took a deep breath to stop from telling the man angrily that he was not playing their game. There are many grain barges from Andor in the river. Merchants and traders. Who notices such as they? As well notice the beetles and the leaves. Barthanes' voice carried equal contempt for both beetles and merchants, but once again he frowned as if Rand had hinted at something. Not many men travel in the company with Aes Sedai. You seem too young to be a warder. I suppose Lord Ingtar is Varen Sedai's warder. We are who we said we are, Rand said and grimaced. Except me. Barthanes was studying Rand's face almost openly. Young to carry a heron-marked blade. I'm less than a year old, Rand said automatically and immediately wished he had it back. It sounded foolish to his ear, but Varen had said act as he had with the Emerald seat, and that was the answer Lan had given him. A borderman considered the day he was given his sword to be his name day. So, an Andorman and yet borderland trained, or is it warder trained? Barthanes' eyes narrowed, studying Rand. I understand Morghese has only one son, named Gawain, I have heard. You must be much like him in age. I have met him, Rand said cautiously. Those eyes, that hair. I've heard the Andoran royal line has almost ale coloring in their hair and eyes. Rand stumbled, though the floor was smooth marble. I'm not ale, Lord Barthanes, and I'm not of the royal line either. As you say, you've given me much to think on. I believe we may find common ground when we talk again. Barthanes nodded and raised his glass in a small salute, then turned to speak to a gray-haired man with many stripes of color down his coat. Rand shook his head and moved on, away from more conversation. It had been bad enough talking to one Corinthian lord. He did not want to risk two. Barthanes appeared to find deep meaning in the most trivial comments. Rand realized he had just now learned enough of Des Damar to know that he had no idea at all how it was played. Matt, Heron, find something fast so we can get out of here. These people are crazy. I really love that conversation. It's just, he reads so much into Rand's words, and Rand's just like, I don't know what I'm doing. Can you please stop talking to me?
Yeah, like
I'm just gonna go stand by the hors d'oeuvre table. Nobody talk to me.
you people are all crazy. On this reread, it struck me how much Rand grows in such a short time in these books.
Yeah.
Like here in this scene, he's totally out of his depth. Barthanes has got plots inside plots going on, and Rand is just trying to get out of the city alive. He has no idea what the impact of his words will be. Flash forward to the Shadow Rising, and Rand has his own plots inside of plots to keep the various lords and ladies in check, while he's out in the waste. Rand really does not know anything here, and he learns a lot over the course of the next couple books.
He really does, yeah. Like, that's a good point.
Barthanes drops the family relations connection right here in book 2. He just has it reversed.
Right.
Rand does have royal blood in his veins, but he's Galad's brother, not Gawain's. Add this to last week's episode where we had Matt confirm that Rand is an ale. Rand really needs to start putting 2 and 2 together on some of these things, you know?
Yeah, like everybody and their mother is telling him, hey, you look a lot like an ailment. And Rand's like,
Right?
no.
It's like, no.
No idea what you're talking
Two
about.
rivers.
Yeah, Tamil Thor, totally my father, even though I know he's not. He's just, it's true.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, speaking of Rand being clueless, it takes him a minute to catch on to what the ladies cornering him are after.
Oh, yeah.
When the first one tells him that her husband always leaves her alone and isn't there to talk to, Rand honestly responds that she must miss him because he's trying to figure out a way around the double wide skirts of her dress. I picture the dresses during the French Revolution where they wore those like side hoop things.
Oh, yeah.
That like stuck out for 6 feet. And the giant hair piled up with like bird cages and flower arrangements inside. Just talk about a fire hazard.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's not until the second one shows up and they start calling each other wenches and whatnot that he figures out why they keep bringing up their absentee husbands. Also, did you notice that the third woman who has no husband to make trouble, the one that Tom says could educate Rand good and proper, is Brienne Taberwin? Brienne is the one who eventually hooks up with Lamgwin and travels with Morghese and Linny and that group.
I completely glanced over that. Did
Well,
not remember
because
that.
she's just a throwaway, right?
Yeah.
Like, for a series that has literally thousands of characters, Jordan has this weird conservation of characters thing where he recycles and reuses minor characters in odd ways.
Yeah.
So these randos have a tendency to come back around.
Weird.
Yeah.
I never noticed that before.
Yeah, me neither. I was like, boy, that name sounds familiar. That's why, because she is familiar. She'll be back.
Okay. Rand talking to Tom here is what seals Dina's fate.
Totally.
I'm even more convinced now that the pattern had to have Dina killed in order to send Tom on his journey in this story. Right here is where Tom is associated with Rand as part of the game of houses, even though neither of them are playing. Rand talks to him right after talking to Barthanes, so according to Corinian logic, Tom must be part of whatever Rand is part of, you know?
Yeah. I don't know if it's 100% accurate to say that Tom isn't playing the game of houses. Like, he's trying not to, but he can't seem to help himself.
Yeah, good point.
And I love his reaction when Rand has finally decided that he needs to keep Tom out of it to protect him. Quote, the Gleeman blew out his mustaches, taken aback. Well, yes, that as well. The last time I helped you, I got a limp out of it, and you seem to have let yourself be tied to Tarvel on strings again. You'll have to get yourself out of it this time. He sounded as if he were trying to convince himself. End quote. Like, Tom says that he doesn't want to get involved, but he is itching to jump back into it.
Yeah.
And that's what kills Dina.
Yeah, that is. Speaking again of Corinian logic, another thing I realized is how Rand's reaction to Huron probably made people even more suspicious about his involvement in the game. When Huron tells him Matt hurt his leg, Rand takes a second to register what that means and then tries to be heard by the people in the room as he responds. Someone who's trying to see intentional connections in everything he does could interpret this as a significant exchange or some kind of code being passed between the two of them. Darn it, now I'm thinking like a Corinian. Are we done with the city yet?
I don't know. I think Rand did a good job in responding like a stuck-up noble. Like, I mean, it's possible that the people watching would interpret that little pause as Rand being shocked or put off that a servant has the audacity to speak to him.
Okay. Okay.
And I mean, even Tom tells him that he plays well at being a lord. So I don't think he messes up. I think he figures it out pretty quickly.
I think he's doing a good job. I'm just starting to tie too many things. I'm reading
like
too
a
much
Korean.
into it like a Korean. That's what I'm trying to say. My bad. And we end this chapter with a great chilling reminder from Tom. Korean may play Das de Mer, but it was the White Tower that made the great game in the first place. Mm-hmm. And that wraps up chapter 32. But before we get to chapter 33, here's a quick word from our sponsors.
Today's episode of the Wheel of Time Pod-Thru is brought to you by the freedom and movement of a simple pair of pants. From crinolines to farthingales, panniers to corsets, women were trapped in literal cages of fashion for hundreds of years. When your skirt is wider than you are tall, moving around becomes a true hazard. This was in the time of candles, people. Freaking candles! They were silk and lace-covered death traps, and I will keep my jeans, thank you very much. Pants. Steel and bone-free since at least the 1400s.
Chapter 33 is called A Message from the Dark, and the icon is the Avendesora leaf.
Huron tells Rand that he followed the trail of the Dark Friends to a walled garden behind the manor where they met up with Trollocs. They have not come out again, so he reasons that they have to still be there. Rand comments on how Huron is speaking to him normally again, and Huron tells him that actually spending time with the people has given him a bad taste in his mouth for Corinian propriety. They meet up with Matt and Loyal, and Matt tells Rand that he can't sense the dagger at all. Matt has a big mouth and is kind of a jerk, but he's sick, so we're supposed to forgive him. Huron leads them to a walled-in waygate left over from when the garden was in Ogier Grove, and Rand sends Matt to get Ingtar and Baron. He has Loyal boost him so he can see over the wall to get a better look at what they're dealing with. And Rand heaves himself over the wall without waiting for the others, who scramble over after him. Huron and Loyal chide him for being reckless. Rand theorizes that Huron should be able to smell the trail in the ways and removes the Avendesora leaf keystone to prove it to him. As the door opens, the darkness of Machin Shin comes oozing out, the howling wind full of voices saying vile things and, worst of all, whispering Rand's name. Rand leaps back and drops the Avendesora leaf in his surprise. Rand embraces Sidin and fills himself with a ton of the power. He can see Loyal scrambling in the dark on his hands and knees, searching for the leaf keystone. Rand fights with himself, trying to resist channeling, but terrified that Machin Shin will kill them all. He hurls the power at the oozing blackness, not knowing what he was doing, and throws a fountain of light. Machin Shin begins to recede, but the power is consuming Rand, and he's having a hard time holding on to himself. Loyal finds the keystone and closes the waygate, and Rand is finally able to let go of the power. Huron and Rand tell Loyal that he saved them all, which of course Loyal humbly denies, and the three go back over the wall. There was no way they could follow Fane through that. They meet back up with the others and are about to leave when Barthanes comes to speak to them one more time. He pulls Rand aside and delivers a message from Fane. The message said that Fane will wait for Rand on Toman Head. If Rand does not come, Fane will hunt down Rand's people and those he loves until Rand faces him. They head back to the inn where Perrin is waiting. Rand explains what happened and that Fane used a waygate and took the horn to Toman Head. They argue a little about the nature of Machin Shin, with Varen insisting that it cannot be controlled or set to guard anything. Ingtar starts to really lose it, now that the horn seems lost for good. Rand tells him that he believes Fane's message, despite Ingtar's protests, and he has to go to Toman Head. Varen tells them that there were things written on the walls on the night Faldara was attacked that indicate they probably should go to Toman Head. She figures that their best option is the waygate at Stedding Tsofu. Ingtar still has his doubts, but Varen commands him to get his soldiers ready to ride at first light and tells them all to go to bed. Rand stops her and asks about Matt. She explains that the healing did not work as well as they had hoped, and that he probably only has a few more weeks before he wastes away. Rand tells her harshly that he does not need another spur. She asks him how he is feeling and if he has surrendered to the wheel yet. Before storming out, he says angrily that he rides with them to find the horn, but beyond that, there is nothing between him and any Aes Sedai.
We get this moment when Rand comments that Huron is finally getting back to treating Rand like normal. Mm-hmm. And Huron responds, his response is as if he's a little embarrassed.
Yeah.
And I totally get it. It's easy for me to get caught up in something, especially when a lot of people around me are caught up in the same thing.
Yeah, totally.
And I kind of get swept up in the groupthink. When Huron comments about the servants and other common people that he's encountered during his time in Cairhien, he says that they say they're loyal to their lords, but willing to sell them out at the drop of a hat. I read this as sort of an apology. He got caught up with these people, realizing that they were a bunch of backstabbing snakes, and now does not want to be associated with them. He has gone back to who he is and to acting like he should, not the way he feels pressured to be. And I think both Huron and Rand are happier about it.
Oh, for sure. I mean, we know that Rand was getting really tired of the bounty and scraping.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, I think that it's good that Huron actually got to spend time with real Cairhien servants and understand that it's all a game.
It's all a mask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's no real loyalty. It's all pretend.
We get a little tidbit of information about the financial situation of Cairhien that I totally missed my first time through. The reason the city has not been fully restored after the war is the Ogier Masons have stopped coming to make repairs. Mm-hmm. Apparently, the king stopped paying them, so they stopped working. So the farmers aren't farming, and the king is paying for entertainment and food to be brought in, and for some strange reason has stopped paying for repairs to the city. The country is a powder keg about to blow up. Once the government runs out of money, and the people find out, it never bodes well for those in power.
No, not at all. It's like French Revolution all over again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, we already talked about what a horrible economic situation that they're in. And I still am not sure if this is just incompetence or if Galdrian is purposefully trying to tank the country because of Dark Friend ways. Like, I don't know if Galdrian is a Dark Friend too, or if he's just super, super stupid. But yeah, this is not sustainable in any way, shape, or form.
Not at all.
So Matt is still being just the worst character of all time.
Yeah.
I'm so sick of his complaints and digs at Rand.
Yep.
And he still hasn't learned to keep his mouth shut. Just talking about Rand going mad and everything. I mean, Loyal should absolutely have been told that Rand can channel by this point, but it isn't Matt's secret to spill,
True.
You know?
Yep, exactly.
And Rand is starting to seriously wonder how long it'll be before Matt betrays him and exposes his secret. He doesn't think that Matt would do it on purpose, but he's such a thoughtless idiot that he's a real threat, you know? Like, I cannot wait until he's healed because I hate Matt at this point.
Yeah.
It's so crazy that he goes from being the worst character to one of the best characters in the series because right now he's completely useless.
Yeah.
You know, like halfway through book 3, he becomes amazing. And that's the only thing that keeps me from just like being, let him die. Don't even care. Just let him die.
But for now, we just got to live with Dagger Matt.
Yeah, who's terrible.
Yeah.
And Rand is still acting recklessly, and Loyal is still grumbling about humans being rash and hasty and getting him into trouble. I love Loyal. He just warms my heart.
Yeah. I just want to take a second to reflect on how much Rand has been through in this last book and a half. Because when Huron says, I've heard if you go through a Waygate, you come out mad, if you come out at all, Rand's response is almost blasé. Like, it can be done, Huron. I've done it. And Loyal, and Matt, and Perrin. In this moment, Rand is being more of a lord than he has been so far, and does not even realize it. I mean, he may mean to say that a common person had done it, so it can be done again. But what Huron is going to hear is, I'm a lord with experience. The same experience as the builder who you revere. And the same as my fellow heroes who came back from the eye of the world with me. You're in good hands. Hold my beer while I open the sucker up. Context is important.
True. Very true.
So, On the list of scary crap Rand did not expect to face when he woke up this morning, you'll find Machin Shin up at the top of that list. But the fact that Machin Shin knows his name and senses him before the gateways even open, that was nowhere on the map. It freaks him out so much that we get one of the first moments where Lewis Theron steps in and starts wielding the power directly.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. All right, here's what the book says. Quote, Sedin filled him. He felt as if his bones were vibrating, felt the red-hot, ice-cold flow of the One power, felt truly alive as he never was without it, felt the oil-slick taint. No! And silently, he screamed back at himself from beyond the emptiness. It's coming for you. It'll kill all of us. He hurled it all at the black bulge, standing out a full span from the waygate now. He did not know what it was that he hurled, or how, but in the heart of that darkness bloomed a coruscating fountain of light. Okay, so we've talked about the bleed through in previous episodes, where Lewis Theron influences what Rand is able to do.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons that Rand's able to pick up the sword so quickly and why the tree song affects him so much.
Uh-huh.
But I completely agree that this is the first instance of LTT showing himself, talking back to Rand, and directing the power.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like more than just simple bleed through that we've seen so far.
It really is, especially like the yelling back at himself kind of thing.
Yeah. I don't think that was necessarily just Rand arguing with himself. I really do think that was at least partially LTT. Like, dude, this is no time to be waffling about. Like, come on. But yeah, I really do think so. And Rand kind of starts to lose it in the next book. Like,
yeah, he does.
Jordan dials up the crazy to 11, realizes that that's not sustainable, and then dials it back for future books a little bit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it would make sense that he's starting to get some of LTT taken over. Like,
right,
just the first instances, like, timeline-wise.
Yeah. So, and this is, I think, the first concrete, like, place that we have where it actually happens.
Yeah, I totally agree.
There is so much going on with the description of Rand pushing Machin Shin back into the Waygate. When it's all over, Rand thanks Loyal for saving them. He thinks to himself, it was killing me, and it felt wonderful. I don't think he's talking about Machin Shin here. I think he's talking about the power and the way it made him feel like he was within an inch of burning alive, but filled with life all at the same time. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, we already have established that the power is addictive.
Right.
So I think that's definitely what this is. Even though it was hurting him, like he could feel the pain of it, and he was overwhelmed by it, there's still a part of him that craved more.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Which is super messed up.
Yeah, well, I guess not cool then. But still, I find it really compelling.
Yeah.
Loyal is the perfect example of a hero.
Yes.
He did save the day. He saved the day by doing something no one else could do. It was a small thing, but it took a lot of courage to keep calm in the situation and stay focused on that one small task. And like a real-life hero, he does not think that what he did was a big deal. It was no more than anyone else could have done. If I could have any one character in this series brought to life in the real world, it would be Loyal.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. Like when Huron and Rand are like, oh my gosh, you totally saved us. He's like, all I did was find the leaf, but I'm no hero. I was super, super scared. And Rand's like, dude, we were all super scared.
Yep.
Yeah, I know. I love everything about Loyal. He's fantastic. But I do have to say that Loyal is profoundly stupid in this book for not figuring out that Rand can channel.
Unfortunately, yes.
Huron is not familiar with the ways and doesn't know that much about Machin Shin. So I can see why he would think that the fire came from it. But Loyal has studied the ways and he knows what Machin Shin is and is not capable of. So he should know that the fire is not something that would have come from Machin Shin. Huron didn't do it.
Nope.
He didn't do it.
Nope.
So by process of elimination, it had to have come from Rand. Loyal is young, but he's not dumb.
Correct.
Like, he should be able to logic this out, especially after the portal stones. Like, this is getting ridiculous.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, it's almost insulting at this point. Like, come on, Jordan. Loyal would have known. You can't write a character who's this smart and make him this dumb.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. And after all of that, Huron says the same thing that I know I would say if I was in the situation. Lord Rand, could we leave now?
Right?
I know I want to get away from that waygate of death as fast as I could.
Absolutely.
Rand's takeaway from his second conversation with Barthanes is that he needs to follow Fane to Tom and Head, or the people that he cares about will be hurt. Mm-hmm. It's interesting that he's still automatically thinking about Egwene.
Yeah.
Even though they've walked away from each other and acknowledged that they aren't meant to be together, even though she is on the other side of the world in the tower, he still feels like he needs to protect her.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a little frustrating.
A little bit. Because, I mean, what's he going to do? Like, she's so far out of his grasp at this point that even if she was in trouble, there's nothing he can do about it.
Yep.
You know? It's just kind of left over from his upbringing of, you know, I'm the man and I need to take care of the woman and, you know.
Yeah, it's still frustrating.
Yeah, agreed. Totally agreed. So they have that little powwow at the inn, and Rand tells them all about Fane and the Waygate. And Varen doesn't really believe what he says about Machinchen. She says that it couldn't be left as a guard the way that Rand was describing. Here's what the book says. Quote, "No one knows exactly what Machinchen is," Varen said, "unless perhaps it is the essence of madness and cruelty. It cannot be reasoned with, Matt, or bargained with, or talked to. It cannot even be forced, not by any Aes Sedai living today, and perhaps not by any who ever lived. Do you really think Padan Fane could do what 10 Aes Sedai could not?" So it's obvious that something is wrong, and that Machinchen is acting differently than it ever has before. And of course, she's wrong, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, yeah. Something about the arrogance of Aes Sedai, I don't know.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is where Ingtar really starts to lose it, like really loses it. The stress of the journey and the guilt over his actions have been weighing on him more and more and more. And here, he's just completely broken.
Yeah.
Ingtar has been banking on finding the horn as his only shot at redemption, which, I mean, I don't really get the logic of that, but okay, whatever. But now he feels that the horn is gone for good, and with it, his last hope of salvation. And he says that he's lost and is just in complete desolation.
Yeah, this is the low point for him.
Yeah, for sure.
And we're about to get to some, well, I guess not, because we're going to get to an even lower point for him later.
Well, and so here's the crazy part, right? This whole time he's like, finding the horn and bringing it back will save me. Like, it'll make up for what I've done. And it's like, really though? Like, let's think about that for a minute. Do you really think that that is going to make up for causing all these deaths? Like, come on, Ingtar. I mean, what actually happens, his real redemption of like self-sacrificing and realizing the error of his ways, I buy that. Like, I am willing to go out on a limb and say that I think Ingtar does actually redeem himself. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know how the cosmic scales balance in the Wheel of Time, and I don't know, like, I don't think there is an afterlife. I don't know. But I'm going to say, like, I think that by sacrificing himself and saving the rest of the group, I think that that actually did do what he wanted it to do. But just finding the horn and taking it back would not have been enough, I don't think.
Well, I think in Ingtar's mind at this point, I mean, he's been tasked to get the horn so that the Dark One's forces can have it. I think in his mind, if he can get the horn and take it back to Lord Agelmar, who he knows is not going to do the wrong thing with it, maybe that's the redemption he thinks he can achieve, is by thwarting the plan that he was told to do. He knows he's going to get killed for it, because the Dark One, like the Shadow, the Dark Friends are going to come after him if he disobeys that order and gives it back. They lose the horn. But I think that's what he's trying to do.
Well, I mean, he's not on a mission from the Dark right now. Like, the Dark Friends already have the horn. Like, going after the horn, this whole book
right.
is after he's already made the mistake and now he's trying to make up for it.
Okay. Right. So
Because they stole the horn.
So yeah, I'm off base there.
Yeah, so he's trying to, quote unquote, rectify his bad decision, except what happened as a direct result of his actions wasn't just that the horn got stolen. People
Lots
died.
of people died.
Like, there was some serious shit that went down.
The
And
attack on
so
Feldar,
just getting the horn back isn't going to make up for it. Like, if he really wants to make up for it, he has to make a real sacrifice. And he does, which is great. You know, it turned out well for him. But, like, this whole plan, like, his logic, all of this hope and crazy and desperation of, I just got to get the horn back, that's not going to save him, you know?
True, it's not. But I don't think at this point he's capable of seeing any other way.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So I get the frustration, but at the same time, stepping into his head, I don't think he saw any other option available to him. Mm-hmm. So that's why he's losing his shit.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, he's such an interesting character. I think Jordan did a great job with Ingtar.
I agree. Ingtar's great. I kind of flash back to the scene in the Eye of the World as at the Queen's Blessing when all the pieces are coming together and they make that decision to go into the Eye of the World instead of Tar-Valon.
Yeah, they're all sitting in a private dining room figuring out the plan.
Yeah.
It's very similar.
Well, and the difference here is that instead of Rand being torn between what to do or other people making decisions for him, Rand is totally fixed on what is happening next.
Yeah.
He is going to Toman Head with or without anyone else.
Yeah, he has a lot more agency in this scene.
Yeah. And while Matt he kind of has to go to get the dagger, everyone else is on board with following Rand to Toman Head. This time, they're not being chased. They have a clear goal in mind, and they're going to hunt the Dark Friends and get that horn and dagger back. This is such a stark contrast to when they were gearing up to go find the Eye of the World, which was all fear and tension, and they were the prey. They've all grown up a bit, and it shows in the way that they all commit to this course of action. Even Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree.
And we're going to a steading.
Yay!
I love that Loyal's reaction to going to a steading is almost the same dread as traveling the ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, even though this isn't his homesteading, he's like, I can't go. I just can't.
Yeah, he's totally going to be in trouble when he gets back home.
Yeah, he really is.
Yep.
So Varen says that Matt is going to die in a few weeks without the dagger. And then she says to Rand, and what of you, Rand al'Thor? Do you feel well? Do you fight it still, or have you yet surrendered to the wheel? So, do you think she's talking about the madness here? Or is she talking about his future as the dragon? Or what? Like, what is she after here?
I think she's actually talking about both. Because by, like, submitting to his destiny and by accepting the fact that he is the dragon, accepting the fact that he's a male channeler, at least at this point in the series, means he is also accepting that he will eventually go insane. And not fighting that is embracing the insanity.
True.
Not necessarily giving into the insanity, but embracing the idea that it will eventually come. And
it's accepting that he's going to go mad and die.
Yeah. And so I think she's actually referring to both. Like when she says, do you still fight or have you yet surrendered? I think she's talking about the surrender to being the Dragon Reborn, but I think it means both.
Okay, that makes sense. Like, if he's still fighting his destiny, or has he surrendered to the inevitability of what that means?
I think that's what she's actually talking to him about right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Cool.
And that ends chapters 32 and 33 of The Great Hunt. Join us next week for chapters 34 and 35 for Murder, Mayhem, and the Steading.
We hope that you enjoyed this episode of the Wheel of Time Pod-Thru.
We'll see you again next week. Make sure that you rate and subscribe to us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. If you could leave us a positive review, it would really help us out. It makes us more visible so other people can find us. You can tweet us at Pod-Thru or email us at whatpodthru@gmail.com and tell us your thoughts on anything we covered today.
That's WOTPODTHRU@gmail.com. Thanks, everybody, and we hope the wheel weaves you in our direction again soon.